Lamb looked up, brushed away her hair, which was tangled like a crow's nest from being soaked in the rain, and looked at her husband with angry, pitiful eyes without words of explanation or retaliation. Tears flowed like a stream, hands covering my mouth to keep from making a sound. Lamb ran quickly upstairs. Fong felt like he was free falling, lost his mind, sat down on the sofa, and burst into tears like a child. It's really over. Fong held his head, struggling in tears, not knowing that he was a man. Sometime later, Lamb vomited, looked at the test strip, 2 lines. Since the day the incident happened, Lamb has always slept with baby Lin. Fong still says, brother, sister, in front of everyone, but doesn't care about anything. It's all for the children. Fong's parents came back to visit their children in the US after the COVID pandemic. Hello, my parents are coming back to visit for 6 months. Next week we'll go pick up our parents. This is NHA told Lamb. Lamb was worried when she received news from her mother-in-law. The sound of Fong's car arriving. He picked up his bag and went straight to his room to visit his child. He didn't look at Lamb, but he knew her eyes were on him. Brothers. Fong coldly pushed Lamb's hand away. Mom just told me that my parents will be back next week. What do you think? Then continue to act until my parents return to America. My parents come back to visit for half a year. How can I pretend all the time? But what do you mean, teach me? For my children and also for how much I endured and suppressed, you know. The ambiguous words along with her husband's trembling, choked voice helped Lamb understand that he still had a deep love for her even though he was still not tolerant enough to grant her forgiveness. Feeling guilty again, Lamb tried to hold back tears and answered her husband, it's up to you. Lamb prepared a bowl of rice for Fong, but he always ate out or bought canned food to eat in the living room. Lamb kept digging it out and pouring it back into the pot. Leftover rice, kept in the refrigerator, yellowed, moldy. Lamb is bored and doesn't cook anymore. She takes her children out to eat often. Today, when she received a phone call from her mother-in-law, Lamb went to the market and cooked rice to have an excuse to talk to Fong. Lamb looked at the tray of rice, took a bite. Tears of self-pity flowed from her eyes. She picked up a piece of fish and vomited until she remembered the pregnancy test from earlier. Lamb rushed into the bathroom, took the stick and hid it. Fortunately, Fong hasn't discovered it yet. If you can escape this time, how can you escape forever? Lamb looked down at her belly and rubbed it. It was still the sacred feeling of motherly love. But this time the feeling of torment and awkwardness made her heart feel like a thread. When facing each other, Fong seemed annoyed with Lamb, but he always probed his wife through his daughter. Fong plays with his child. Hey, give me a bowl of noodles, Daddy. Do you want some chili? Fong patted his daughter's head, smiled, and nodded slightly. Holding his child in his arms, he mused. Mom, will you cook dinner for me today, or will you and I go eat fried chicken? No, Mom took me to the restaurant to eat, but I didn't eat fried chicken. Mom said, eating fried chicken means Dad doesn't love you. Is that so? You must listen to your mother. Yes, why don't you take your child out to play? If you go with your mother, you won't have a father. If you go with your father, you won't have a mother. Jia Lin whimpered. Fong remained silent, wiping his child's tears. Little Lin's eyes were red. His heart ached, blaming himself for losing his child's picture of happiness. When Fong went downstairs, he saw Lamb vomiting and his face turned pale. He hesitated and walked towards his wife. Seeing Fong, Lamb felt shy and avoided. Fong watched Lamb as she ran upstairs. Lamb went to the obstetrics hospital. The doctor said the pregnancy was 2 months old and developing very well. Lamb intended to give up the child, but after witnessing patients having miscarriages, going through in vitro fertilization, spending a ton of money but not necessarily having a child. Lam decided to keep the child. I'll say it's over with Fong. At worst, he'll just divorce me. I will be strong to welcome you into the world, my dear. Lam rubbed her belly and talked to the baby. That night, Lam quietly packed her luggage and mentally prepared to tell her husband everything. Brother, I want to talk. Say, I was pregnant. So what? You don't wonder. Lam was both surprised and scared with her husband's calm attitude. Fong was silent for 1 minute, then continued. Or not, there are things that shouldn't be too clear and rational. You just need a heart big enough to complete everything, honey. Lam thought Fong would be angry and scold him without saying anything. Suddenly, what do you mean? This baby is not. I know. Fong walked closer to Lam, held her hand, and sympathized. You don't have to say anything. You are also at fault. Lam hugged her husband. Her tears of shame were replaced by gratitude. She leaned into Fong's arms. He also felt lightheaded. He felt like a true husband. Tonight, the moon is bright and full. Fong held the baby. Lam leaned her head on her husband's shoulder. A peaceful mid-autumn festival night with Lin's happy laughter and Hoi Fong's noble love. Lam turned over. Looking at her husband sleeping, she secretly cried again. Lam torments himself more every time Fong takes care of him. Mom and Dad, please eat this dish Lam made for you. Fong told his parents. Let me see my daughter-in-law's cooking skills. Mrs. NHA and Mr. Wah looked affectionately at Lam. As soon as Mrs. NHA reached out to pick up the fish, Lam vomited. Ms. NHA smiled brightly like a flower and said to Mr. Wah, I'm about to have a grandchild, Grandpa? Mr. Wah smiled brightly while Fong looked sullen and shy, his eyes looking at the ground. Lam invited Du An to have lunch. Du An had to wait a long time to meet Lam. Hey, hello friend, looks like you have a baby, right? Congratulations dentist. Du An, beer, speaks like a flute. Lam sighed and contemplated. Sigh, what a joy, I'm so miserable. If I could die, I would die too. Lam poured out his heart to Du An. Du An both feels sorry for and angry with you. Come on, Lam's personal matter. You must be tired already. If I don't sympathize, I shouldn't burden you. Du An thought so, then moved her chair closer to Lam. Gently, she said, I don't know what to say. Everything has gone. Try to forget the past. Live well in the present. Don't think too hard, okay? But, Lam hesitated. I understand Lam's torment. Mr. Fong overcame everything to be tolerant of his girlfriend. For that, please use love to make up for him. Du An said. Lam feels relieved with your sincere words. Du An is a kind and thoughtful person, often sulky, but also very forgetful when comforted. With Lam and Du An, they are very likable. The two have been close to each other for almost 20 years. Since Du An's mother passed away, Lam and her friends divided each other to help. Sometimes Lam spends a large amount of money to buy expensive items for her friends, as long as Du An likes them. Hey, I'm starting to like Mr. Fong. If you don't mind, just let me go home and do it. Du An smiled mischievously. Come on Dad, let's dream. Lam laughed loudly. Fong caressed the bottle of wine, took a sip, thinking about meeting Min last week. Who are you? Fong asked. Min, father of the baby in Lam's womb. Min said boldly, I'm not afraid of heaven or earth. Fong rolled his eyes. You still dare. Fong tried to attack Min. Star? Hit it. You are a bad guy. Money and fame are more important to him than her. If you don't need Lam anymore, please release her. I love Lam. You. Fong gritted his teeth and climbed up, punching Min a few times. Min obediently did not respond, like a criminal. Letting go of Min, Fong was stunned. It turned out that a man of high status was not as good as a sophisticated husband. On the way home, while waiting for a red light, Fong saw a shipper talking on the phone. Me? I came home early today, so I stopped by to go to the market to buy a catfish. I'll help you cook dinner. Oh, I'll come pick you up from school. The shipper's story, plus Min's scolding words, made Fong realize, you're right, Min. Thank you, and the other shipper too. Money is important, but love is even more important if you truly know how to love someone. But the pain of being cheated on by his wife still hurts Fong as his love for his wife grows stronger. Hoang Jia Import-Export Company, where Lam is auditor. Tui, let me help you summarize the parameters of Fei Credit Finance Company. Lam said. Lam received a call from the director. Look, all the actual parameters and your reports about the companies do not match. Please help me explain. Female director worships. Sorry, on the day of the survey, I was a bit tired. So I asked my friends to help me survey and report back. A highly specialized chief auditor, I don't think you have such a very good reason. Yes, I'm sorry. Lam bowed his head, shy. Okay, go back and do the report again. Sigh. Lam vomited again. She rushed to the toilet, slipped and fell. Colleagues took Lam to the hospital. Lam had a miscarriage and called Fong more than 10 times. But he was too drunk to answer the phone. Tui called Lam's house. Hearing the news about her daughter-in-law, Mrs. NHA immediately went to the hospital. Lam opened his eyes and saw that he was surrounded by bloodlines and pulse clamps. Lam lifted her body but was helpless, looking down at her stomach. Mrs. NHA understood. The baby is gone. Child. Lam's tears flowed like a stream, even though she knew that this child came to her unexpectedly. But who could cut the intestines without pain? Mrs. NHA hugged her daughter-in-law to comfort her. Fong rushed into the hospital room. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. Aren't you very happy? Mrs. NHA looked at her son and Fong explained. She meant to blame you because you didn't want to have another child before. Now it's happening again, Mom. You really are. So he blames you. How can you defend him? Mrs. NHA said, then turned to Lam. Mom understands. But things have gone wrong. Please forgive Fong. Lam returned home to recuperate, and her health soon recovered thanks to her mother-in-law taking care of her. There was a knock on the door. Thinking her husband was home, Lam wiped her tears. Are you home? It's Mom. Is Fong coming home late again? I do not know and do not interfere in my children's affairs. But as husband and wife, you should be tolerant and correct mistakes together. Not just hold hands and enter paradise. Mrs. NHA was gentle. Mrs. NHA returned to the bedroom. Lam went downstairs and sat on the sofa waiting for her husband. Fong was drunk. Lam helped him to his room, wiped his face and changed his clothes. Fong kissed his wife passionately. Lam was touched and she kept responding. Fong had an accident, suffered a traumatic brain injury, and was as stupid as a child. The doctor predicted that Fong would not recover or that it would be very difficult for him to recover. Son, your husband is no different from a waste man now. You should divorce to find new happiness. Mr. Hua, Fong's father, said with wet eyes when he heard Mrs. NHA say that Lam's mother requested that. Or not. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, I can't leave my husband. Lam mustered up the courage to confess his mistakes and was forgiven by Fong. Mrs. NHA was angry and slapped Lam like crazy. Go away. Before I lose my temper. Hurry up, Mr. Walken. Go into your room. Let Dad talk to Mom. Yes. Lam touched his cheek and left the living room. Mr. Hua analyzed. I understand your feelings. But if Fong accepts to forgive his wife, it will not be easy. What's more, now my child is as stupid as a child. Please forgive everything for your child's sake. He thoughtfully held his wife's hand. That man, he speaks with such meaning and affection, how dare I not listen? Well, your husband is a lawyer. Ha ha ha. Lam ran to the doctor, hoping that her husband would recover soon. Lam took her husband and children back to familiar places. Look, do you remember anything? Oh, where? Fong was stupid and spilled a bowl of chili sauce on Lam's white dress. Lam was furious. Oh my God, I'm so miserable. You go die. Lam hit her husband with a thud. Mom, don't hit Dad. Baby Lin took the blow for Fong. I hate you. Lam hugged her husband and children. Choking up. I'm sorry, daughter. I'm sorry. Looking at him like this, adding insults and scolding from his mother. I'm afraid I don't have enough strength to endure. If I don't have enough strength anymore, I'll leave it. Crazy guy, only eating harms and causing suffering to my daughter. Mrs. Fuang, Lam's mother, has been following Lam since when? Hey Mom. Lam frowned uncomfortably and looked at her mother. Mom? Are you planning on wasting your youth on this crazy guy? He's not crazy. Fong is my husband and children. If you can't help me, don't kill him. You ungrateful person. Also, don't call my mother-in-law and tell me to divorce Mr. Fong. I vow to spend my whole life taking care of him. Okay, so from now on you won't have this mother. Mrs. Fuang left angrily. Lam watched. She was also very hurt but had no other choice. I gave up my family because of you, so you have to try to get better. Lam leaned her head on her husband's shoulder. Beep beep. Car horns sounded loudly. Baby Lin stood close to the front of the car. Fong ran out to block the car from braking quickly. Baby Lin. Lam hugged her child without having time to recover. Fong fell on the street and fainted. Mr. Fong, wake up. Don't leave me and my children. Lam burst into tears. Call an ambulance. There's too much blood. Oh, well, let me help you. Pedestrians were confused and curious. The urgent siren of an ambulance seemed to burn the young wife's heart, making baby Lin cry. Lam comforted her child for a while, then collapsed into Fong's arms. Hospital 115. Fong is in critical condition. Doctors are highly focused. Report, low electrocardiogram, calcium index below 80. Low survival rate, heart helper. Sigh, the head doctor shook his head. Try CPR again. Hurry up. Fong did not have any reaction. Taking off the mask, the doctor said sadly, we tried our best. Please go in and see him one last time. Or not. Lam can't cry but his heart feels like a dead person. Lam held her child's hand and walked without a step. She burst into tears along with her child as she looked at her husband lying silently. Holding his hand, she said, You are so evil. I once said I would spend my whole life loving you. We would have many children together. When we get old we would travel. I would rub your feet when you are tired. You are an under-promising person. Wake up. I promise to do everything for you. As long as you are happy. Tears filled Lam's eyes. Lam's sincerity is like a miracle. Fong regains consciousness and restores his memories. You, daughter, why are you and your mother crying? Why are you here? I went out to block the car that was about to hit me. Lam said, Ah, I remember. I thought we wouldn't see each other anymore. You scared me and my mother, you know that? Why are you afraid? Every once in a while, I joke to see if you still love me. Hey, crap, you are less evil. Lam laughed. Mr. Hua and his wife witnessed the reunion of Fong and his wife. Have you seen it? Fong is tolerant of his wife, he has nothing to lose. Mr. Hua said, Oh, so you're right, okay. Mrs. NHA said goodbye. Fong soon recovered and returned to work. Having gone through an incident, we thought we would lose each other forever. Fong and his wife did not tell anyone else. They knew how to respect each other and think from each other's standpoint. A strong marriage requires, in addition to love, tolerance and suffering together. Lam went to take an extra psychology course to help Fong. He joked, "Do it properly. If you don't do anything, I'll kick you out." Ha ha ha. "Oh, I know you're delicious right now." Lam sulks in love. Fong hugged his wife from behind and placed a passionate kiss on her lips. This is the office." Lam was shy. Look at her in her sexy, red nightgown, with her white skin. Plump lips, big eyes, and wavy curly hair. Lam looks like an 18-year-old girl. Fong lifted his wife up and whispered, "Let Lin be your sister." They passionately locked lips until their two bodies became one. Fong's parents returned to America. Lam was also pregnant. This time she gave birth to one boy and one girl. "I didn't expect our house to be so crowded, honey." "Thank you." Sigh. "Here we go again. My cousin guest, whose name is Flute, or something, keeps thanking me all day long." Fong said, "But I'm so bad." Lam tormented, "Don't let the past weigh on you. When there are storms, we learn to appreciate the present. I just need to know, I love you. Okay?" Fong is humorous and affectionate. The children giggled when they saw their parents showing affection, making the couple blush. Fong and his wife participate in volunteer work for lonely elderly people and people with disabilities. Hoi Fong also helped Yuan collaborate with a short story magazine. And thanks to this place, Yuan found her life's destination, something she often told her friends was more difficult than catching stars in the sky. Yuan's wedding was not bustling but cozy. The guests are a group of cousins from high school. After the MC's introduction, instead of the image of the bride and groom holding hands on stage, there was a bride carrying an accessory, a frame bike riding beside the groom. Tears of happiness mixed with nostalgia for his late mother. Under the stage was the image of a father. With white hair, slowly walking onto the stage, his voice trembling, Yuan's father, Mr. In, said, "Thank you all for coming to attend the Bu Kai ceremony of my daughter Juan and son-in-law Quang Hoi." Holding his two children's hands, he advised, "I only have you. I know I cannot give you the warmth and protection like a mother, making you feel sorry for yourself and lonely. But Dad wants his daughter to be able to do everything because Dad and Mom can't take care of her forever. Please sympathize with me, daughter." Mr. In hugged his daughter in his arms. Yuan cried like rain. This was the first time she hugged her father since she became a teenager. She is as attached to her mother as a mother. Her mother, a great woman, can be said to be a great monument in her heart. She always supported her in things she knew she couldn't do. As long as she saw her smile, her heart felt warm. Her father is more realistic. He acknowledges what his daughter can do, otherwise he will let go immediately. Therefore, Yuan's feelings for her mother are very deep. Today, on the important day of my life, I heard my dad confess, Yuan loves him so much. Mr. In turned to his son-in-law, "Hoi, I'm sending you Yuan. I know, you were at a disadvantage when you accepted to be Yuan's husband. But please remember the reason why you two came together. Yuan is very prone to self-pity and guilt because he is not perfect. There are times when the two of us quarrel or he accidentally breaks something I like. Please be tolerant of it, my child." Quang Hoi, "Yes, I know, don't worry, Dad. I will take care of Dad and Yuan." Mr. In nodded, eyes stinging, happy for the happiness of his two children. The guests applauded and could not contain their emotions. Another surprise was that Phi, a close friend who also got off the plane, immediately came to celebrate with Yuan. "Congratulations. My life debt. Ha ha, thank you, very surprised. But what, let her faint. Not when the restaurant heats up with musical performances."